because I realized I'm too small for doing anything big. So I was trying to put down as small as it could be. So I thought I could make myself relevant to at least one person. And that's what I was doing. And I did a lot of small things like that to help one individual, even for one day. But what I didn't expect, I didn't realize, something else would happen. As I went around the village, I became very familiar, step by step, knowing more about them, which you never knew in an academic way. In an academic way, you get trapped into abstractions. Condense everything into your little framework. And you lost sight of the real people. So here it gave me the sense of the real people in everyday way, how they react and so on. And as I was discovering the village, I felt like this is my real university. I'm learning from here. So I looked at it as a kind of learning experience for me. And something shocked me again and again as I went around every day. The loan sharking that goes into the village. Tiny little loan given to very poor people. In exchange, they take control of the whole life of those people. And the ugliness of it, heartlessness of it, kind of crushes you. That you can't do anything, but you just watch as a silent observer. And you feel helpless because it's not only in that village, it's all over the country, all over the world, that loan sharking goes on. And what can you do as an individual to undo the whole system? You can't do a thing. While you relapse into kind of convincing yourself you cannot do anything, suddenly it came to my mind, I can do something. Why don't I do that? I cannot solve the problem of the whole world. But definitely I can solve the problem of few people in this village. And the idea was very simple. Why don't I lend the money instead of letting them go to borrow money from somebody else? I immediately got into action. Took money from my pocket, started lending money to people in the village. I thought at least I have not done anything for the world, but I have done for few people in this village. And the money involved was such a small amount. My first loan was a total of $27, given to 42 people. So you can imagine what kind of money I'm talking about. So I have plenty of money of that size to give more loans to. So as I was giving, more people said, I need the money. Why don't you give the money? I keep giving money. Only to make sure they are not pushed to go to the loan shop. And they were very happy. They were very excited. And I was very excited, seeing their happiness. They started looking at me as if I have done something great, some miracle or something. I said, if you can make so many people so happy with such a small amount of money, why shouldn't you do more of it? So I wanted to do more of it. And still I have money to give in my pocket, it's possible. But it's getting bigger and bigger. Then I realized that soon probably I will not have enough money to lend. So then another idea came, why don't they connect the bank with these people? So they should go to the bank and take the money. It's a small amount of money. Bank can give so much more, but they can just give us a few dollars worth of money here. When I proposed to the bank, they got the shock of their life. How could you lend money to the poor people? It's impossible. Bank cannot do such a crazy thing. So I got into a big controversy. It went on and on. They will not budge much from their position, and I will not let them alone. So I keep on criticizing them, keep on using very insulting words for banks. That didn't bother them. They were very well protected by their rules and procedures and their thoughts. After about 8 months of this confrontation between me and the banking system, I came up with another idea. I proposed to them, why don't you accept me as a guarantor? I become the guarantor, and that fulfills your rule. And you give the money to the poor people in this village. As you say, they won't pay you back. If they don't pay back, I'll pay back. I'm the guarantor. I thought that way I'll open the door in the bank. In the beginning, they rejected the whole idea. But now I became more aggressive, saying that I'm following your rules. Why can't you accept me as a guarantor? After another 2 months, finally they accepted it, not because they were convinced that this is going to work. They were totally convinced it's not going to work. Still they agreed because after I give the first loan with my signatures and they will not come back and pay it, and the bank will ask me to pay it, and probably I'll pay and never ask them to lend money to the poor people again. So that's their hope. But the reality turned out completely different. Everybody was paying everything, so they couldn't stop. I keep signing papers. They keep giving money. And I was very happy because it's expanding. And ultimately, they saw the risk is becoming bigger and bigger because the money amount is getting bigger. They became very rough. Then I was very furious. It's working, they don't want to give money. So I said, forget the banks. Why don't they create a separate bank? That's when the idea of creating a bank came into my mind. Then that new fight began, how to create a new bank. In 1983, finally, we got the permission and set up a bank. And called it Grameen Bank or Village Bank. Started in 1976. And now in 1983, we became a formal bank. So we kept on expanding our work and so on. And the word microcredit didn't exist in dictionary. So we needed to coin something to describe what we do. So we started saying that we give microloans. So out of that came the microcredit and microfinance. A new word was born in the language, and it became a very popular word these days. And the idea spread from Bangladesh to other countries and so on and so forth. Today, Grameen Bank has 8.5 million borrowers. 97% of them are women. So basically, it's a bank for the women who are women. And the bank is owned by the poor people. That's the most distinguishing feature of Grameen Bank. It's not owned by any outsider or anybody else. It is borrowers collectively own the 97% of the shares of the bank. And the bank lends out over $1.5 billion today annually. And all this money comes from within the system. That's another important feature of the bank. It doesn't take any money from outside. When you talk about Grameen Bank, suddenly you go, World Bank must be giving a lot of money to this bank. No, we don't take any penny from World Bank. We never took any penny from World Bank or any other bank. So we continue to do it by the money that we collect as a deposit. As a bank, we take deposits from that money. That's the basic thing we do. Not only lend money to poor people, we also encourage them to put some savings in their account. Each borrower has savings account. Every week, they have to put tiny little money in their savings account. 8.5 million borrowers put tiny little money in their savings account every week. You'll be surprised how big that amount becomes very quickly. I mentioned that we give $1.5 billion as loans to people each year. Out of this $1.5 billion, about $1 billion comes from the deposit of the borrowers. So they are not simply a borrower, they're also deposited at the same time because of the equity savings. So it's their own money practically they take loan from. So it keeps on growing, and our lending becomes bigger and bigger. And the bank makes profit goes back to the borrowers as dividend because they own the bank. So this is precisely what the bank is. And many countries at the beginning say, oh, it may not work here, it's a different culture. We said, well, human beings have the same culture. They need money. Nobody gives them the money. So they fall victim to the loan sharks. So gradually it spread all over the world. Now we are invited to do it in the United States. So we call it Come in America. We started in 2008. Now we have 6 branches in New York City. We have over 12,000 borrowers in New York City. All women, 100%. Average loan in New York City is $1,500. You'll be amazed how difficult it is for someone to receive. Thank you, that's better. Someone to receive that $1,500. Nobody will give you that $1,500. But that's something in New York City. Again, the flourishing business in New York City is the payday lending. It's a big business. And the interest rate in payday lenders, 500%, 1,000%, 2,000%. It goes on. Nobody cares about it. And New York City is supposed to be the world capital of banking. And I keep telling the Grameen borrowers it may be the world capital of banking, but those who live under the shadow of those tall buildings, they don't see anything about that banking in their life. But that $1,500 or $2,000 or $1,000. So now it's a spread in other cities because everybody said we have the same problem in our city. So we have branches in Omaha, Nebraska. We have branch in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have branch in Indianapolis, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, and many more branches are coming up. And the repayment rate, near 100%. 99.4% in New York City. And we follow the same rules and procedures in Bangladesh. 5 women get together, make a group. Several groups make themselves into what we call a center. Weekly repayment, and so on. People say, oh, America's people are very independent. Those old world situation of groups and so on, nobody will pay attention to them. Absolutely wrong. They love those groups. They never had any friends. Person that lives next door, you never knew who lives next door. When they joined Grameen Bank, they discovered the one that in the group lives right next to her. For the first time after many years, they discovered each other. And they loved that. New group of friendship that appears. So that's the story that went on and on. Now we are invited to do it in Glasgow. An organization has been created, Grameen UK, which will start the first branch in Glasgow and hopefully, if it works, spread in other cities. As I was doing microcredit, Grameen Bank, year after year, I also keep saying the problems of the poor people. You cannot turn your head away from other problems. Giving a loan is one thing. Problem of health is another thing. Problem of housing is another thing. Sanitation is another thing. Education for the children is another thing. You cannot turn your head away. It's such a staggering problem. And every time I wanted to focus on a problem, I came up with an idea of creating a business to solve the problem. And I started creating company after company because there were problem after problem. So the more problem I focus on, the more company I create. I became kind of non-stop company creator. I keep on creating companies. And today there are nearly 60 such companies operating in Bangladesh. Each one focused on a particular problem. While I was getting close look at the situation of the poor people and the situation of their children, I started focusing on the education of the children. The parents of these children never went to school in their life. Similarly, parents of their parents never went to the schools. So the illiteracy kind of hereditary thing passes on to each generation. We thought we should not let it happen to the new generation with incoming families. So we became very stubbornly devoted to the idea of sending every child to school. And soon we achieved that. 100% of the children of all the families of Grameen Bank were in school. Then they started continuing in the school. Many started coming to the college, coming to the university, coming to the medical school. That is expensive for the poor families. So we immediately introduced education loan so that they can continue for higher education. Today, literally thousands and thousands of these young people are in medical schools, engineering schools, universities, and so on, with Grameen education loans. And you see the difference between the first generation illiterate borrowers, the mothers, and the second generation literate, educated, highly educated young generation. And you see them side by side. And always you ask the question, the mother could have been a doctor too. There's nothing wrong with the mother. Daughter became a doctor. Mother is still illiterate. And the question that comes to the mind, is it the fault of the mother that she's an illiterate person? And you can broaden that question. Is it the fault of the mother that she's poor? Is it her fault? Every time you analyze it, every time you look at it, you become very clear. Poverty is not created by the poor people. It's not their fault. Poverty is created by the system that we created, institutions that we created, policies that we designed, concept that we created, that created poverty. Poverty is imposed from outside. Poverty is not self-generated phenomenon. Most of the time we look at the poor people, oh, this is his fault. He's lazy, he doesn't work, he drinks. He doesn't like to work. But that's not the reason he's poor. And that's why I was giving an example of the mother. She's illiterate. Her daughter would have been illiterate too. Only difference it made, some institution encouraged the mother to send the children to school and followed it up. So she could bring out her talent, her ability to go through those steps of education. And gave the education loan so that her career doesn't stop. It's a loan, it's not a gift. She took that loan and went to medical school. If this came one generation before her, her mother would have done that same thing. So is it the fault of the mother that she is illiterate? She is poor. So if it is the fault of the institutions, why don't we fix the institutions? Who are responsible for fixing institutions, designing institutions? Who does that in our societies? Whoever does it, university plays a very important role. So when we talk about problems, universities cannot say it's not our fault. Cannot say that. If you have designed wrong institutions, part of the blame should be on the people who designed them.